Hello and welcome to this next lesson, looking at how our bodies protect us from communicable diseases. So last lesson we started by looking at how your body first of all protects you from having pathogens enter, and which we call the physical barriers, and we also looked at how white blood cells protect us from communicable diseases. Before we start, I'd like you to pause the video and have a think about the question on the board. What is this person suffering from? So you should have paused the video and you should have had a think about what this person's suffering from. If you look, they've got these large lumps on their skin all over their body and they generally look very unwell. They're suffering from what's known as smallpox. Smallpox is a serious contagious disease that's caused by a virus. It often kills people. Okay, it's thought that it first appeared about 3,000 years ago. However, in 1980 it was completely eradicated. Smallpox completely disappeared due to the fact that we were using vaccines to make people immune to this illness. So today's title is Antigens and Vaccination. So in your books, as you would do for any other lesson, you need to write this title in your books. By the end of the lesson, you should be able to tell me what the word antigen and vaccination mean. You should be able to explain why we become immune to diseases after we first have them. And you should be able to explain why vaccinations make us immune to certain diseases. So, as we do any other lesson, I'm going to write on the screen, I'm going to use the colour coordination that we always do. My first keyword today is the word antigen. Antigen, A-N-T-I-G-E-N. Now, an antigen can be defined as a protein on the surface of a cell. So, a protein on the surface of a cell. Okay? Now, antigens are like identification tags. They allow your immune system to work out what's part of you and what isn't. So when you come to school, I am always wearing my lanyard. It's a black lanyard that has my ID on and it says Mr. Abraham, teaching staff, and it's got a photo of me. So if anybody's not sure who I am, I can show them my ID, I can show them my lanyard, and everybody knows then that I'm part of the teaching staff at St Edmunds. If a visitor comes to our school, they often wear either a yellow or a red lanyard. You'll notice that they have a lanyard around their neck that is either yellow or red. That tells us that that person is supposed to be there, but they're not part of the St Edmunds community. They're visiting, okay? If somebody's at school without a lanyard, we know they're not supposed to be there, and ideally you should inform someone. So we can start by adding to this by saying that antigens are like identification tags for cells, comma, we can say the way it's a way of organisms knowing which cells are theirs and which ones are not. And which ones are not. So, an important point that we need to think about is that antigens have a specific shape. Okay, so I'm going to add underneath here in red that antigens have a specific shape. Therefore, all of your antigens have one shape, so when your white blood cells come across the cells of your body, they know that that is one of your cells. However, if there is a foreign cell inside of your body, such as a bacteria, it will have a different shape antigen, and therefore your white blood cells will know that's not part of you. Okay? So we can say that foreign antigens, foreign is a term that we use to describe cells that shouldn't be in the organism. So foreign antigens cause lymphocytes to make antibodies. Cause lymphocytes to make antibodies. Okay, so foreign antigens cause lymphocytes to make antibodies. Now, the problem is that the antibodies will only fit the antigen if they have the correct shape. So we can say in red that only the antibody or antibodies with the correct shape will fit an antigen. So if we've got an antigen that has a particular shape, so if my antigen is a triangle shape, so we've got our antigen, which I'm drawing as a triangle, and our lymphocytes make lots of antibodies with different shapes. So we're going to make one with a circular cutout, we're going to make one with a square cutout, and we're going to make one with a triangle cutout. Only the antibody with the correct shape will fit the antigen. Okay, so these are my antibodies. Now, from these shapes, it's evident that the only one that will fit is this one. Okay, the others won't fit. Okay, so only the antibodies with the correct shape will fit an antigen. Now, when we first encounter a pathogen, our lymphocytes make lots of antibodies to try and find one that fits the antigen. So we can say when lymphocytes first encounter a pathogen, they make lots of antibodies to try and find one that fits. To try and find one that fits the antigen. Okay, so when your lymphocytes first encounter a pathogen, they make lots of different antibodies with different shapes, trying to find one that fits the particular antigen. Now, this is a slow process, okay? So this is a slow process. During this time, you feel very ill. Okay, this is when you have the illness. However, the good news is once your lymphocytes have found an antibody that fits, they remember how to make it for in the future. That way, if you get the pathogen in your body again, they can kill it straight away with antibodies. So we can say that once the correct antibody is found for a pathogen, comma, lymphocytes remember how to make the antibody, how to make the antibody. Okay. Now what this means is your lymphocytes can respond quickly to future infections. So we can say that lymphocytes then respond quickly in future. So what we've said so far is that an antigen is a protein on the surface of a cell. Antigens are like identification tags for cells. It's a way of organisms knowing which cells are theirs and which ones are not. Antigens have a specific shape. Foreign antigens cause lymphocytes to make antibodies, but only the antibody with the correct shape will fit an antigen. So if we've got this triangular antigen here, your lymphocytes will make different shape antibodies until it finds one that fits, like this one, which can then destroy the pathogen. When lymphocytes first encounter a pathogen, they make lots of antibodies to try and find one that fits. This is a slow process. So your body first comes into contact with this antigen, your lymphocytes make lots of different shape antibodies until they find one that fits. Once they find one that fits, they remember how to make that antibody, so if in the future you get this antigen again, you can make the antibody quickly and you don't feel ill. So that brings us to our next point. If I can just do this. Our next keyword is the word immunity. Immunity. Now, if you are immune, or if you have immunity to a particular illness, it means that you have the ability of lymphocytes or white blood cells to respond quickly to a pathogen. Okay, so immunity means that your white blood cells know how to make an antibody that fits that particular antigen and they respond quickly. So we can add underneath here, we can say that lymphocytes know how to quickly make the correct shaped antibody. antibody for the antigen, or for the pathogen antigen. Okay? Now, a vaccination, in fact, before we do that, I just want to quickly have a look at this diagram that's on the PowerPoint, and that is shown here. So, for example, if you get some measles viruses into your body, your white blood cells will start to make antibodies to find one that fits. They'll make all different shaped ones. While this is happening, remember, this is a slow process. In fact, we'll just put that on our PowerPoint so that I can annotate it. So what we've got is you're getting the measles virus. The measles virus has a particular shaped antigen. So we can say on here that it have a specific shaped antigen. Okay. Your white blood cells will then start to make antibodies that fit. It will try to find antibodies that fit the measles antigen. So makes antibodies with different shapes. Now remember, this is a slow process, so while you're trying to find it, you become ill. While your white blood cells are trying to find an antibody that fits, you feel ill in the process. So we can put that this is a slow process. Okay? Once you've made antibodies that fit, they start to attack the pathogen, sticking them together so phagocytes can engulf them, and also so that it kills them, and therefore you get better. At this point, you remember how to make the antibodies, so you are immune. We can say that you have immunity to this illness because your white blood cells can now quickly make antibodies to attack the pathogen, to stop you feeling ill. Okay? So immunity is the ability of white blood cells to respond quickly to a pathogen. We've got what happens to develop immunity here, and we've annotated it with what we said on the previous screen. So let's go over our final part of this lesson today. Refresh our screen, put it back to black, get a green pen. Our next keyword, and our final one, is the word vaccination. Vaccination. That should be an I there. So V-A-C-C-I-N-A-T-I-O-N. Vaccination can be defined as an injection of, and I'm going to change to red because this is important, of inactive pathogens to provide immunity to a disease. To provide immunity to a disease. Okay, so essentially you're injected with dead versions of the pathogen. So you're injected with dead forms of the pathogen. Okay? So you're injected with dead forms of the pathogen. Now if we can just steal this image here for our screen, because I can refer back to it while we teach. So, make that a bit smaller, I think. Don't need it that big. This is on the PowerPoint if you want to see it a bit bigger. So, we need to talk about the steps of a vaccination. So, we can put the subheading, Steps of Vaccination. Dot dot, and we can underline it, and we can put step 1, which we've already said, that an inactive form of the pathogen is injected into the person. So number 1, an inactive form of pathogen is injected into the person. Now, the important thing here is that it is inactive. So during this process, the person doesn't feel ill because the pathogen is dead. It can't make them feel ill. So we can add underneath here, and I'm going to put it in red, that as pathogen is inactive, the person does not feel ill. Does not feel ill. So because it's inactive, because the pathogen is dead, you don't feel ill when you have the injection. So that would be number 1 here, okay? So the person's being injected with inactive forms of the pathogen. Once they do this, the person's lymphocytes slowly make antibodies until they find one with the right shape. So lymphocytes slowly make antibodies until they find one with the correct shape for the antigen. With the correct shape, so how you spell shape, with the correct shape for pathogen antigen. So the lymphocytes start to make these antibodies until they find one with the correct shape. Now that's shown on the diagram here, okay? Once they find the right one, the lymphocytes remember how to make this pathogen, this antigen. So we can say number 3, lymphocytes remember how to make the correct antibody. So once they've made the antibody for that particular pathogen, they remember how to make it. So we can put here number 3. And we can put number 4 here at the bottom. If the person then gets the illness in the future, their lymphocytes quickly make antibodies and the person is immune. So we can say, number 4, if person gets the pathogen, in the future, comma, lymphocytes quickly make antibodies that fit and we can just say that the person is immune. So we can put in brackets immunity, which we spoke about on the previous slide. So vaccination is when an inactive form of a pathogen is injected to a person to provide immunity to a disease. They're injected with dead forms of the pathogen, so it doesn't make them feel ill. When they do this, the lymphocytes slowly make antibodies until they find one with the correct shape for the pathogen antigen. The lymphocytes then remember how to make this correct antibody. Remember, this is all against dead pathogens, so they don't feel ill at the time. If the person then gets infected with the pathogen in the future, the lymphocytes can quickly make the antibodies that fit. This provides what's known as immunity. So, that does complete our lesson today. You should now be able to tell me what the words antigen and vaccination mean. You should be able to explain why we become immune to diseases after we first have them. And you should be able to explain why vaccinations make us immune to certain diseases. What I would like you to do, I would like you to have a go at the questions that are on the PowerPoint here and any additional worksheets that I have sent you. So I will see you in the next lesson. Please contact me via Google Classrooms or drop me an email if you're confused or you need any help, and I will see you next time.